Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to discuss Rishi Sunak's desperation as his leadership challenge seems to be in complete freefall, and he acts like a man whose parachute is definitely not working and just flaps his arms in the hopes of a miracle. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So in terms of the available data, this contest seems to be all over now. Yet another reason why it was so pointless for the Tories to allow it to drag on as long as they're doing. Still over another month to go, and yet Sunak looks dead and buried. I said at the start of the year that he needed to either get Johnson to fall then or get out of cabinet. He was very unlikely to survive the reputational hit from the economic mess that we all knew was coming our way even before Russia launched its full-scale invasion. I couldn't work out why he stayed. To show loyalty to the government? But he resigned to bring Johnson down anyway. He got zero benefit from remaining as Chancellor beyond last winter and yet caused himself massive damage into the bargain. Frankly, I couldn't believe so many Tory MPs were still willing to get behind him. That was a genuine surprise to me. Maybe it's a good sign. Maybe it's a sign that they want someone vaguely sensible to lead them. But he's just politically inept. The bottom line is he's been outplayed by Liz Truss. How bad do you have to be outplayed by Liz Truss? He must have known that his economic record as Chancellor would not endear him to the wider party membership. He needed a way of dodging responsibility, like all good Tory leaders do. I thought he might say that he didn't really have free rein over the economy, as some may imagine, that Johnson's team, starting with Dominic Cummings, kept interfering. Something to suggest he would have managed the economy very differently if he'd really been in charge. This dodge would have been credible as well. Because remember, Rishi Sunak replaced Sajid Javid. Now, Javid resigned because he refused to allow Johnson and Cummings to force advisers onto him instead of choosing his own. But Sunak didn't even attempt that. In fact, his main pitch was that he wants to see lower taxes, but not until inflation under control. So he's basically saying the taxation level is right now. So with that one policy alone, he basically defended the economic policies that he should have been blaming others for, that Tory party members really don't like. Fatal. And now he's changing it all. Last week he was going to cut some taxes immediately. The response from Truss supporters was predictable enough. The dreaded term U-turn came rolling out. He fundamentally changed what his main economic position was overnight. An act of desperation, his opponents called it. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I was saying, when he was getting behind some pretty mad foreign policy aims that he is known to have opposed in cabinets we know he's not personally in favour of. And I said he will make increasingly desperate promises. If he thinks he's losing badly, if he thinks he's falling too far behind, he will become increasingly insane in his promises. If polling puts him a little behind Truss, there's no need to panic. Just try and trip her up at the hustings. Should be easy enough. I saw someone today saying they tried to describe Truss as having a commanding grip of her brief. I don't think I've ever seen a minister with such a weak grip on their brief as Liz Truss. And I've seen Chris Grayling in interviews. Even Boris Johnson used to just make things up and make it sound like he knew what he was talking about to people who didn't. Truss gets found out every time. But he's too far behind. And if he's too far behind, Sunak needs to take increasingly desperate measures. Sunak is now promising to cut the basic rate of income tax, which is already low at 20%, to 16% by the end of next Parliament. Oh, there's no plans to compensate it with higher taxes elsewhere. He says it'll be paid for by growth. Good laugh. I feel I must tap the sign again. Low tax countries have low GDP per capita. We're not going to be a special case. When you look at the outliers, they've all got things that we're not going to be able to replicate. Usually massive oil reserves and next to no one living there. So it wouldn't generate growth. It would actually strangle our economy. But it's just another move along the path to throwing the kitchen sink at this contest and worrying about how to deliver later. Part of me wondered if the polls were even accurate. I don't wish to stereotype old people, but I did wonder if most Tory party members who are on the older side have little interest in the internet other than maybe shopping or awkward Zoom calls with the relatives. Given that the polling uses online engagement methods, I did wonder, is it representative? Because I couldn't remember how accurate it was for 2019 because everyone just expected Boris Johnson to win. I don't think I was even paying attention to the polls. But Sunak clearly believes it, that he's far behind, or he wouldn't be resorting to this arms race of policy changes. And although I call it an arms race, I don't think that's going to be how it's seen to Tory party members, because I think there's only one person trying to up the ante. I think they're looking at Truss and seeing two huge benefits. First, she isn't tainted with the downfall of Johnson. Even though the members were thoroughly tired of his antics, it's not actually known if they recognised he was an electoral liability long term. So they may still not have wanted him gone, even though they weren't happy with his behaviour. Truss can claim that she was loyal to Johnson to the end. And for those who wanted Johnson gone, they can still support her because she could claim to not being party to the way Johnson was brought down. So therefore she was showing loyalty to the party. A party she's actually trashed during the contest. Not only is she one of the candidates that's utterly destroyed the record of this current Conservative government, but the Thatcher government, I'm not sure if Tories noticed, she keeps attacking the schooling she had as a child. But that schooling took place entirely under a Conservative government, under Thatcher mostly, as it happens. Someone she reckons she's going to replicate, just like Johnson thinks he replicates Churchill. In reality, if we brought them back, of course, zombie Churchill would kick Johnson in the nuts and throw him off the cliffs of Dover, and zombie Thatcher would batter Truss with her handbag, probably with a brick in it. But the second advantage for Truss, for party members, and it's an advantage created by Sunak, is that she seems more in control. She hasn't made U-turns of policy. Just like Sunak, she's been working on her plans to succeed Johnson for many months, but she was a bit more subtle about it. She had the luxury of time that Sunak didn't. This is perhaps why Sunak was at times too blatant. But Truss appears to be sticking to her original platform because she built that original platform. I'll tell you where Sunak's going wrong. He's trying to enact policies or promote policies that he thinks are the way to run a government. Truss has gone, I've got a clue how to run a government. She's formed her policy promise based on what will win her support from where she needs it. So it was a certain number of Tory MPs and now it's party members. So because she's not shifting platform, she's giving the impression she knows what she's doing. Sunak is leaping from platform to platform in a vain search for party members to vote for him. It is not an edifying sight and it is not likely to win support. If Tory MPs wanted a leader who wasn't certifiably insane, and I can understand that, should never have sent in the highest tax in generations and highest inflation in decades Chancellor up against Truss. They needed someone who could reasonably appeal to the party members. I really did not think that would be Rishi Sunak if he hadn't made a move by the end of February. They'd have done better to have formed behind Tom Tugendhat instead. They may argue he's no cabinet experience, but did Sunak's cabinet experience really give them confidence? Really? What did he do? The only thing that he did that was of any use, that was popular, was the furlough scheme. And it wasn't his scheme. It was a scheme worked out by officials before he became Chancellor. All he did was approve it, which is fair enough. Some Chancellors may not have done. He did. Good. But any Chancellor could have approved it. Everything else he's done has been a disaster. And I don't mean a disaster by my standards. I mean by the exceedingly low standards of even Tory party members. Sunak is on for the arse kicking of his life. He proves himself to be politically inept at every turn. He should never have hung on as Chancellor as long as he did, given that he was prepared to resign anyway. He should have done so before being blamed for the high tax and inflation. Let some other bugger carry the can for that. But given that he did hang on, and if we assume that he wouldn't have done any better against Penny Mordaunt, so no use trying to use spare votes to increase her share, but he would have had that option, he should have prepared a plan B. I mean, I said before, if it looks like he can't win, he should play the long game. I didn't think he would, because he's inept. but he should have been prepared to take the long view. After all, so let us imagine that Boris Johnson had hung on for the rest of the Parliament. When Rishi Sunak became Chancellor, clearly had ambitions to become Prime Minister one day himself, he wouldn't have expected Boris Johnson to fall this Parliament, or he couldn't have banked on it anyway. So if Johnson had have lasted the rest of this Parliament and lost at the next election, would Rishi Sunak still want to replace him as leader? If the answer is yes, he should still have thought of that outcome. By all means, try and win now. Of course you do, because then you can be Prime Minister without having to appeal to actual voters. But offer a stable set of policies, a consistent set of policies. Denounce your opponent as promising the undeliverable. Make that point. What you're saying, you can't deliver. Make that point. What you're saying, you will do, you cannot deliver. You cannot deliver. Then, if he loses, just wait. Don't cause trouble on the backbenchers. Don't make a fuss. Just wait. Truss can't deliver on her promises. They are impossible. Wait for her to fail. Wait for her to lose the election. Then stand up again as the man who tried to save the party. Look, I tried to be the voice of reason before it was too late. But I am still willing to help pick up the broken pieces and take the party back on the path to power. What he is doing, however, is making himself look chaotic. He's not helping his chances of winning this contest, and he's actively harming his chances of winning a later one. So maybe he doesn't want a later one. Perhaps he's not prepared to wait for next time. Maybe he's already decided that if he loses this one, he'll just sod off back to America, assuming they let him have another green card. Maybe that's why he's going all in here. Or maybe he's just not learning lessons. You know, for all Truss's stupidity, she's been in politics long enough to know how to play the game. So now we may be looking at a contest that largely fades into the background. Not a bad thing in one sense, there's urgent issues to discuss in the country and beyond. But a shame in another, because if the contest had been close, I have no doubt that Truss's dirty tactics would have caused a great deal more damage to the Tories than they already have. As it is, she doesn't really need to use them now. She's comfortably ahead here as far as anyone can tell. So she can now rein it all in and be the sensible candidate. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.